Nisei Division versus Plana Foods. Well, there really isn't any competition, is there? Plana Foods is clearly superior to Nisei Division. It's not like you're going to play one side game every single turn, but your opponent's going to be drawing a card every turn. Hi everyone! Well, it seems like Plana Foods has more or less made Nisei Division obsolete, at least until it's time for Plana Foods to rotate. But maybe not. Turns out that in the recent few packs, they have released a sufficient critical mass of Psi Ice to make Nisei Division worth looking at again. And that is exactly what I'm going to do here. Now, the reason why you run Nisei Division is not because it generates more money than Plana Foods. Trust me, it won't. What it does is that it makes the Psi Ice worth running. Otherwise, the runner simply chooses not to break the subroutines, and you can't really punish them. Otherwise, you tax yourself out. But now that you can play these Psi Ice with Nisei Division, suddenly your Ice Suite looks a lot like HB's Ice, which is ironic considering that Jinteki is HB's rival. Their Ice is a lot less solid, a lot more porous, but just as taxing. Just look at the values on these Ice. Cheap to rest, expensive to break, high strength. On the left, we have the 1 for 3 Ice, Crick and Snowflake. 1 for 3 is an amazing ratio, especially if the runner is forced to break them. Then we move into the taxing Ice territory. For 3 rest cost to 5 rest cost, you have a 3 for 4 barrier in Eli with 2 subroutines. That's your gold standard. And you have the same thing, 3 for 4 code gate with 2 subroutines in the form of Upayoga. Now sure, Upayoga is not a hard end to run, but most of the time the runner's kind of forced to break it, otherwise they'll be losing money anyway. And then there's Shatana, which is a mini Komainu. It's 4 for 3 like Nero Katana, but has 2 subroutines. And finally the Juggernaut Ichi. So yeah, this really looks like HB Ice Suite and can be taxing as hell. Let's see if we can make the standard Plana Glacier deck work in Nisei Division. I'm up against Andromeda today. I mulligan my opening hand because, well, it didn't really look very good. Not many good ice to put on HQ. My mulligan hand is much better. The Toll Booth goes on HQ. So unless he blind siphons turn 1, I'm good to go. Because next turn I have enough money to rest the Toll Booth if needed. Toll Booth on HQ is the last thing a criminal wants to deal with, especially when it's not in NBN. Yeah, if you have to play Glacier, you really want to access HQ for that Pollock, for the emergency shutdown, for the account siphon, and Toll Booth just makes it so not worth it to do all these things. My opponent gets a Fairy out, which is always good defense against Jinteki for that matter. I now construct my scoring remote, which is Eli at the base, a good hard end to run. This is something that the Psi Ice can't really do. Unless, outside of Snowflake, you don't really have any good end to run. So seeing that Eli early was really good because it gives me a solid end to run at the base of my server. Now that I think of it, there aren't actually any solid end to runs in this deck except for Toll Booth and Eli, so that's a bit risky. Snowflake is kind of an end to run, but you have to play a side game to actually end the run, so that might be risky. Now, I believe that's a Betty on HQ into Toll Booth, so he has, or rather she has to play a side game even if she gets into HQ. Otherwise the run will just end and she wastes a lot of credits. By the way, that Toll Booth is going to cost 8 credits to break. 2, 3, 4, or 7. I think it's 7. But either way, Toll Booth now is guarding a Marcus Betty and a Christian Grid. And a Caprice goes into server 1 along with a Marcus Betty. So I have 2 upgrades in both my scoring remote and my HQ, the 2 most important servers. You bet my opponent is getting nowhere. Sure, she has set up all her breakers and her Desperado and her Econ and is good to go. So she's actually doing pretty well. But this is the last thing she wants to see. Christian with Marcus Betty. That is gonna hurt. I'll basically be forcing her to run HQ at least 2 times before she can even begin siphoning me. So that's going to be a huge deal. Now I have a whole bunch of credits and you might ask, since your ice is so cheap, why do you need so many credits? The answer is, besides all those cheap ice that you saw in the early splash screen, I also run a Toll Booth, which is on HQ right now and will defend me against this legwork, and a copy of Assassin. These are pretty expensive to rest, so I needed to have a good solid amount of money before I can even begin scoring out. And you bet I will score out soon, since I have the fast strength in hand. I will definitely fast strength a Nisei if I can. Now, he makes it all the way to the base of my server. We play the Batty side game first. Even if I lose, I'm still going to rest Crucium to stop the legwork. So, Batty fires. I'm going to bid 0, he bids 1. I'll let the run end. So the legwork fizzles, my opponent wastes 9 credits, 7 on the toll booth, 2 on the legwork. Well done. That is a huge loss. Oh, by the way, she also loses a click and a credit, and 2 credits because she got tagged. So suddenly, all those triple daily cast money just went down the drain. I'm in a very good position right now, but I cannot score the Nisei just yet. Snowflake into Eli is a pretty solid server, but I want to keep my opponent down while she is low on money. So I'm gonna ice up archives with the Ichi. Ichi is not the ideal ice here. You really want to see Crick or something cheaper, but it will do in a pinch. Right now, I really don't want her to be getting 3 credits and a card for a click. So I need to stifle the Desperado John Masanori security testing combo. That's more important than rushing out a Nisei. If I rush out a Nisei here, I'll give her 2 whole turns, 2 worth of security testing triggers. That's 6 credits, 2 cards for the cost of 2 clicks. I'm not going to let that happen. So all the servers are ice, and Jackson does his job, and now we can begin scoring the Nisei. Let's go. It's not the most solid server, but Snowflake to Eli is very cheap to res, and that's something I really appreciate. Now, she runs into archives, and I'm going to rest Ichi here, because why not? Why wouldn't you, if you are trying to keep her out? So the Ichi doesn't fire because she has a backup fairy. So I actually lost 5 credits on that, which is a bit problematic because it becomes slightly harder for me to defend my remote. But again, Snowflake to Eli is just 4 credits to res. How amazing is that? She obviously runs my remote. It's kind of painful because she has 3 clicks to do so, but that Eli is going to tax her out quite significantly. And that Snowflake is no laughing matter either. She can take the side game. I think it would actually be in her best interest to take the side game at this point, but nope, she breaks it with Kuroda for 2 credits. And then I show the Eli Caprice. So this is a bloody painful server to get through. Does she really want to spend 4 credits? At this point, she's kind of committed to at least 1 run. So she does so, and she even clicks through the Eli. So all I need to do is to win either of these side games. I bid a 1 on the Caprice, which fails. Never mind. Let's play the Batty side game, and I'm Nisei Division, so I don't have to worry about losing credits on these side games. But I lost both side games. 1 in 9 chance of losing those side games. Now, sure. Whatever happened there, I probably wasn't going to score the Nisei the next turn, but at least I would have kicked him out. Kick her out. That was what I really wanted to do. The fact that she bypassed both Caprice and Batty and stole my Nisei, that was a very, very crippling setback. That really shouldn't have happened. If I was able to keep her out that turn, I would probably have been able to sustain the Caprice side games. Simply because if I bid 1, I'm credit neutral, and if I bid 0, I'm 1 credit ahead. So it really changes the game theory on those side game bids. It's a lot easier to bid high, knowing that you will lose fewer credits. And it's a lot worse for the runner to attempt to repeatedly trigger side games because it's inadvertently fueling my economy whilst not really advancing hers. Unfortunately, this is the big problem. She now gets the security test R&D, and I cannot really afford to rest the Shatana on R&D at this point because sure, it will use up her fairy, but that means she'll be able to get through HQ as such. And trash my Chrysium, trash my Caprice. That's not what I want. And sadly, the toll booth is not going to live any longer. The toll booth is now femmed. Yeah, the game changed very quickly right there. A couple of clicks, and suddenly I'm on the back foot. I was doing pretty well. A couple of side games and a fem later, and I'm now in a lot of trouble. I'm still going to fire a Batty side game, and it's a lot easier for me to bid big values with it. But this time I'm going for the 2 because I really want to keep her out this time. It's quite important to note that I probably should have bid 0. No, any bid of 1 or 2 would do because I needed her to spend credit so that she couldn't trash the Chrysium the same run. So now, a very important respite here. I see the celeb gift and I'm going to play it. At the risk of showing 2 agendas in my hand. I'm fine with that because my opponent is poor and I'm going to trash her security testing. So she tries to siphon me here to get her credits back up to a good level, but she didn't see the Chrysium coming. So the Chrysium forces the siphon away, she still gets the access. She only pays 1 credit to get through the toll booth and another credit to kill the Batty. So now she's down to 2 credits. She can't trash a Chrysium and she's dirt poor and she has no security testing. This is looking pretty good for me. So that burn siphon was kind of a huge deal. Even though the toll booth only cost her 1 to bypass, she lost a lot of tempo from that HQ run. Because she didn't get a Desperado trigger, she didn't get any, her security testing is gone, and she had to clear the tag, etc, etc. She's on 0 credits. This would be a perfect scoring opportunity, except that I was pretty poor myself. So after Celeb Gift, I can now restructure and score another Nisei. Except I don't have a Nisei in hand, that's the problem. So let's see what I can do right here. I need to hope to draw some ice right now. I need more ice over the toll booth. 1 credit tax on HQ is not good news for me, and she will slowly but surely climb up to a level where she can trash my Chrysium. So the first ice I drew was a Upayoga. That's the oh, I forgot what that was. Yep, that's a code gate, the 3 for 4 code gate. That's going on HQ. Code gates are really annoying for Andromeda to deal with. Stack code gates are not good against Cordian Blade, but because the innermost toll booth is spam, it doesn't matter. So I have an Upayoga into toll booth. That should be pretty costly to for her to deal with. Now I hyper draw with Jackson. I need to see my second Nisei to score. I now have enough credits to actually score. The only problem is if my opponent has enough credits as well, she can repeatedly run my remote, and that's a problem when Caprice Nisei is the only thing guarding my remote. So here I place a third ice on the remote to deter any form of running. Now she plays a KD Jones here after clearing the tag, but she knew that I have a Voter Intimidation in hand from the Celeb Gifts. So you bet I'm going to play the Voter Intimidation here, even though I'm flooded with agendas, even though I should be scoring the Nisei right now. I want to kill the KD Jones. Why? Because if I don't kill it right now, and I spend the next 2 turns advancing and scoring my Nisei, by then she would have unloaded her KD Jones and she'll be a lot richer. I can't have that. So I'm going to burn her KD and then try to score the Nisei now that the KD is out of the way. With only 9 credits, she cannot possibly think of contesting my remote, especially with 1 unrest ice at this point. That is pretty insane. So she dirty laundries R&D, and I'm gonna let her through this time. It's not really worth it resing the Shatana now because it's 4 to break with Fem. So I'm deciding against it, which is a problem. I'm not gonna let her get free access into R&D for much longer. But I really need to score this Nisei right now. Now she attempts to run HQ, and that is bad. I do not want her siphoning me. I do not want her to break my Chrysium. So I'm forced to res the Upayoga here. That will cost her 5 credits instead of 1 to get through, and another 5 to trash the Chrysium. Seems reasonable. She gets a 2 and 3 shot at my agendas, but one of them is a future perfect, which protects... Nope, it didn't protect itself. Once again, I lost a crucial side game on an agenda, and because of this, my opponent is now on game point. I'm really bad at side games. Why did I bid 0? I have no idea. She was clearly not going to run the remote after trashing the Chrysium. I really should have just thrown more money into the bid. Ooh, this is tough. This is tough. Okay. That doesn't change my plans. I'm still going to score the Nisei in the remote. Scoring it is absolutely crucial, especially now that the Chrysium is gone from HQ. I need to be able to duck siphons, duck the legwork that would win her the game, and this will do it for me. So it's going to be very risky if she chooses to account siphon here, because I can end the run with the Nisei token, which forces her down to 0 credits because she spends all her money siphoning me, and then it forces the John Masanori tag. John Masanori has been doing a lot of work for me. Not gonna lie, John Masanori was a very bad install choice against someone running Caprices and Batties. Well, I can't complain about that. So I hyperdraw with Jackson, and oof, that's a lot of agendas. I wanted to play the hedge fund, but because there were so many agendas in my hand, and all of them would win my opponent the game, I was forced to ditch them. Now, normally I would keep the food and the Nisei in hand, because then I don't have to rely on top decking agendas to win the game. However, because my opponent had such free access to HQ, either through legwork or account siphon, I was basically forced to ditch all my agendas to lower the chance of me losing on HQ. So obviously, she tried to siphon me, and as I said, I forced the run to end. Snapping the tag on her, courtesy of John Masanori, and bankrupting her. She was forced to click for credits. So now I'm going to re-ice HQ, because I found a Caprice. So at this point, I really wish I did have the food in hand after all, because I could defend it with the Caprice. Now, I need to think of how to defend R&D, because now R&D is pretty stacked. There are 8 agendas in my deck. 3 of them in scoring areas, and 1 of them is now in my scoring remote, the second Nisei. This means that of my 22 cards in my deck, 4 of them are agendas, 2 of them protect themselves with the side game on Future Perfect. The rest are my opponent's agendas to win. So I need to be very careful and mindful of that. Because of that, with my mandatory draw, I get more selection of ice. I decide that Upayoga is the right choice on R&D. It's pretty cheap to res, that's the most important thing, because even though these ice are cheap to res, my economy is not the best. With only 9 econ cards and no Palana ability, you're actually much poorer than you think. As such, I res the Upayoga here to keep me on a healthy credit level while still being able to defend the Nisei that I'm about to score. My opponent breaks it. There's a Shatana there. I'm not going down to 3 credits just to force a fairy, so she gets in and finds the winning agenda. That's unlucky. But even though this was a loss for me, I felt really good about the game. I simply lost because I got unlucky with the side games. Well, I guess I shouldn't really be playing Nisei Division if I'm that lousy with side games, but on average I should have won 1 more side game, which meant that I would have either been able to score the Nisei, or I wouldn't have had the Future Perfect stolen from me, both of which would allow me to continue with the game. Anyway, I would like to spend the summary section of this video to talk about the side ice. I think it makes Netrunner really interesting if this deck actually becomes competitively viable, which could very well be the case. As you see, it works so very well. My opponent was suppressed most of the time, the ice was so taxing, and yeah, Andromeda just couldn't really do what she wanted to do. She kept getting tagged, she kept losing her resources, and her breakers weren't efficient enough. I mean, even against Faust, these ice are pretty good. Let's look at Upayoga. That costs 3 cards to break with Faust. Now, when I say this makes Netrunner interesting, it's because, you know, the runner can choose not to break the subroutines on ice and let them fire instead. So that makes a very interesting decision for the runner, and it's quite skill testing. This ice doesn't really actually do much. If you look at it, by itself, it's only a credit tax, basically. Because if you have no other side ice resed, it only allows the runner to lose credits at most. What you really want is to have a snowflake res. That way, this can suddenly become a potential end run that the runner has to deal with. Other interesting combos with Upayoga include Mother Goddess, which becomes a Psy Ice, thereby giving you a hard end run subroutine instead of the Psy to end run subroutine that Snowflake gives you. And at worst, this is simply a credit tax as mentioned earlier, which means that by right, this synergizes with cards that require the runner to have a lot of money, such as Fetal AI and NAPD Contract. So perhaps I should be going in that direction instead. Spiky Palana agendas. Also, Toll Booth is a very good card. I run 1 copy of it in my deck, and I don't plan on taking it out anytime soon because Toll Booth is just so good. When it comes to synergizing with Upayoga, the runner cannot afford to lose credits because they need those credits to break Toll Booth. What about Shatana? I think Shatana was the weak link. I had it on R&D the whole game and I never could res it. It is in Mimic range, although it does share the same stats as Architect without the cannot be trash clause. However, the problem is, my deck doesn't really punish the runner for having no cards in their hand. No Fetal AIs, no snares, no shocks. A smart runner would simply let the second subroutine fire, and the first subroutine is rather irrelevant. So they can basically waltz through this piece of ice. Not very good. Perhaps I should go down to 2 copies of it, or play a spikier version of this deck. All these are basically lending to me playing Spiky Palana, which is running shocks, snares, and fetals. Problem is, deck slots are tight, and economy is also super tight in this deck. If I were to do that, I would have to cut the Assassin and the Toll Booth. Now, Voter Intimidation is a really good card that Jinteki really needs. It's not really in the faction pie to trash resources, but it's so necessary. Even in Palana Glacier, I would play a couple of these cards just to turn off Film Critic, let alone in this deck, where you definitely run Future Perfects because you're Nisei Division. Voter Intimidation allows you to more effectively play the side game, and it allows you to disrupt the runner in a way that Jinteki could never before. I have managed to wreck runners' resource rigs in the past before this, but only because they ran into stand last click. But with Voter Intimidation, you can now aggressively trash Professional Contacts, KD Jones, and of course, Film Critic. It's huge. Being able to kill that KD Jones from my opponent, along with having no sec testings, meant that my opponent was going to be poor for the rest of the game, if only I could drag it out a wee bit longer. It's so good. Well, try this out. It's actually surprisingly effective and probably competitively viable. Thanks for watching and happy net running. See you around.